Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining. I want to first start by introducing myself. I'm Tamika. I am a certified holistic health coach. I have been practicing for, I would say, 6 years because for about 2 years, I did not feel confident in my coaching abilities. So I use them only on myself and those around me. And right now, I currently work with clients, I do workshops, and I am now doing webinars. Part of the reason that I am now refocusing on really dedicating myself to educating and informing is because I recently had a flare of vasculitis, which is a very aggressive chronic illness that many people don't know about. It's actually very rare. It's even rarer for people of African American descent to have this condition. And because of that, there is a lot of ignorance around it. But with this new flare, I was forced to sit down and take time to research, learn, read, analyze, and I realized that a lot of people out here are suffering and being diagnosed with conditions that could be avoidable. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that we're unaware of our options, that we're ignorant to side effects, that we're not aware of symptoms when they present themselves earlier on. And I too have been in this situation. So I think that when you've experienced something, it's only right that you share so that other people can avoid the experience and learn from yours. That this is not something that is going to be disappearing. Chronic illness is here to stay. More people are being diagnosed with chronic illnesses, and we know that we are going to have these conversations on an ongoing basis. So this is part one. So I hope that you ride out and come and join us for the future sessions as well. So again, I'm Tamika. The company I own is from Mother's Garden, and we are definitely going to be offering you more information in the future, as well as some really great products that help with healing and just thriving in this world. Okay, so let's talk about what chronic illness is, because a lot of us think about chronic illness and we think about cancer and we think about certain conditions, and that's a very limiting view, because while cancer, diabetes, lupus, vasculitis are all chronic illnesses, a chronic illness is something that is long-term. So a long-term illness means that this is not something like a cold where, well, actually a cold is in a way a chronic illness because it's a virus and it's in your body. It's something that you don't ever get rid of once you catch a cold. But the chronic illness is something long-term. It's often life-threatening. So while it may not kill you, it does put you at an increased risk of death because of the complications that can occur. So this is not something to scare you, but it's something to be very aware of, because let's say that you're not aware of the complications. When you start to experience symptoms of those complications, you won't understand what's going on. So understanding what's going on and understanding what those complications might be could save your life. Example of this, I was experiencing kidney failure about a month ago, and I was not aware of how quickly it could progress. I had vasculitis. I was experiencing symptoms and didn't know that a racing heartbeat was a sign of kidney failure. I didn't know. I wrote an article about foamy urine and didn't realize that that meant you were in a progressive stage. So what I'm saying is that while it might not kill you, it can put you at risk for these other complications that can put your life in danger. So now let's think about the people around you. Do you know someone who's had a stroke? Do you know someone with asthma? Do you know someone with heart disease, diabetes? Speak to these people, share this information, because this could help them think about their condition in a way that they hadn't thought of before, and it could help save their lives one day. Okay? Great. So now let's talk about what chronic illness is doing to us on a global level, because while it's not being called an epidemic, when you look at the phenomenological information, this is something that is affecting people on a scale almost unlike anything else we are seeing. And I don't know why it's not being talked about more, but it's the leading cause of disability and death In the US, I haven't even started to look at the truly global numbers. I've been looking at Asia, and they're experiencing increased rates of diabetes and heart disease due to their increased intake of meat. And we'll get to meat later, red meat. But let's talk about chronic illness as an epidemic. Because when you understand these numbers, you can start to see yourself and your community and look around you and see how serious this really is. So in 2012, 1/2 of all adults in the US had one or more chronic illnesses. So when we say adult, we don't mean 65 or older. We don't mean 30 or older. We mean adult-aged humans, 18 and older, 1/2 of the adults in 2012. So I haven't seen the most recent figures, but if 1/2 of the adults in 2012 were experiencing one chronic illness or more, by 2017, where do you think those numbers are? It was showing to be increasing at an alarming rate. These numbers, when the new numbers come out, I'm sure it's going to be even higher than this. In 2010, 7 out of 10 causes of death were chronic diseases. So imagine how long we could live if we weren't dying from these diseases. 7 out of 10 of us are dying because of a chronic illness. And what do you think the leading chronic illnesses are? The 2 leading causes of illness, chronic illness, that are killing us are cancer and heart disease. Those are the 2 leading causes. Over half of the deaths in New York are caused by cancer and heart disease. And you don't have to believe me. This is from the CDC. So if you're like one of those people who's like, I don't believe her, don't believe me, go check out the CDC and listen to what they say. So when we talk about disability, the leading cause of disability is arthritis. Kidney failure is increasing at an alarming rate, and that's attributed to diabetes. And people are always complaining about healthcare costs. 86% of the healthcare costs go to chronic illness. So imagine if we could start addressing chronic illness, we wouldn't have to have all these conversations. We always have the conversation about how we can stop spending, but what about having a conversation about healing? So that way the costs are not even necessary. And we could put that over. What if we put that money into healing instead of just looking at where we can just take from people, but actually put it into understanding what's causing the disease? Because what we're finding, and we'll go to the next slide, is that when you start to really understand these illnesses and conditions, many of them are actually attributed to our lifestyle choices. What are our lifestyle choices? This means the things that we are choosing to do, the things that are within our control, are often the things that are contributing to our illnesses. These are the things that are causing us to have these problems with our wellness. So now, if we sit and we really think about how we can change those things, how we can address those things, what options would those leave us with? Those would leave us with options for healing. So now let's think about our diagnoses. Now, I didn't get diagnosed for years after I started experiencing my symptoms. So my question is, have you been diagnosed? And if you have been diagnosed, have you researched that diagnosis? And I don't mean just what the doctor told you. I mean, have you looked at the organs being affected? Have you taken time to consider how the disease presented itself? Have you researched hospitals and facilities that are leading in the condition you have? Have you spoken to multiple doctors or talked to other people with the same condition? What I'm saying is that for you to truly understand the diagnosis, the condition, you need to think larger than what you're being told and dig much deeper, because when you start to look at the body as a whole, you can start to put together the pieces that a doctor may not be able to notice, because that doctor's not going home with you. That doctor doesn't know about your relationships. They don't know what you're eating. You can tell them anything. The other day I was in the doctor's office and I told them I had some snacks. They don't know what I meant by snacks, So think about it. Like when you really think about the diagnosis and understanding it, it takes research on your part. You are responsible for your healing. You're responsible for your wellness. And you have to take full accountability for that. Because if something happens to you, you're the person who has to truly pay the price. Okay? So while we're on this call, I'd like you to make a note. I hope you brought paper and a pen, but write down, what more can I learn about this illness and this diagnosis? Because that diagnosis is just words on a paper. But what it truly is a group of symptoms that are presenting themselves, and they've grouped you into under a label, but that label doesn't truly tell you what's going on. You know what's going on. So think about the lifestyle factors that could be contributing to that illness and research those as well. How do those affect you? If you smoke cigarettes, how does that affect my health? How does that affect my lung health if you're having problems with your lungs? If you love cheese, how does that affect, this system? Look at these things because it all goes hand in hand. Okay? So now let's talk about symptoms, because a lot of times people will ask us, what are your symptoms? And I've done this before where I don't really think about all the different symptoms. I don't think about all the things that are going on. And plus it can be very stressful. And I would like to say that I'm really thankful for my mom because she helps to keep me on track with this, because I definitely lose track of my symptoms and different things like this. But it's great to have a person who can help you with that. And if you don't have anyone who can, write it down. When you notice a new symptom, when you notice something going on, write it down and put it in a little journal, date it, because these are really important little markers for you to know how things are developing in your body. Okay, so have you experienced in your body swelling? Are you feeling very tired? Are you getting numbness, cramping at night, weight gain, weight loss? Are you peeing more? Are you peeing less? These are all signs of changes. Pay attention to them, mark them down, track them, because these are the things that are going to help you better understand when things are getting better or when they're getting worse. And this can make a major difference in your healing process. Where are you experiencing the symptoms? Because, we think about our body, and when we go sometimes we're like, oh, heal me. But no, where are you experiencing these things? If you're experiencing something going on in your face, that could be something related to your heart swelling. If you're experiencing swelling in your legs, that could be related to your kidneys. The body is a connected unit. So while we might think of it as these disconnected parts, think about where the symptoms are taking place and pay attention to the feelings in your body. Sometimes you could just literally sit and just put, even if you want to do it right now, just put the palms of your hands on the tops of your thighs and put your feet out in front of you and just sit up straight. And you can close your eyes when you do this. Just breathe in deep, but just really just feel your body and just see where the pain is, where something feels different, where you feel swelling. And just really take note of this, like really connect with your body, massage your body, touch your body. Touch yourself. It's okay. It's all yours. Touch yourself, because no one is going to really get in deep and really understand where the pain is and what you're feeling like you. So get intimate with yourself, really see where you're feeling these things happening and occurring, and write them down, mark them down, and notice changes. So now let's talk about medical outcomes, because the desired outcome for me is healing, but a lot of times in the U.S. healthcare system, it's maintenance. So it's medication and maintenance. So when it comes to medications, you have to know the side effects of your medications. And when I say know the side effects, I don't just mean know the side effects that are listed on the bottle. I mean know the side effects that are listed on that company website. Look up the clinical trials. And I don't know anyone who really does things in this way like I do, or like my mom does. Well, actually, I go really deep. So I like research, and she does too. But look at those clinical trials, because when you look at those clinical trials, you'll see things on there that they'll never even list on a bottle because less than 4 people experienced it. But the fact that anyone experienced it lets you know if you have it, then you know that it's a possibility that it's related to the medicine, and it's not just you thinking something's wrong with you, or it's not just a new symptom that's appearing. So do your research, find out what the real side effects of that medication can be, not only what they list on the bottle. It's not only important to not drive because it causes tiredness. No, it causes tiredness because it's affecting something else. So research this, understand it, and make sure you actually take your time to mark changes if you see or experience side effects. Don't wait. Don't say, I'll wait and see if it changes. No, let these doctors know, because some of these side effects are very serious and they can be life-threatening. And the fact that you wait can put you in a worse situation. For example, I was complaining about my blood pressure. They put me on blood pressure medication when my kidneys failed. Recently, my kidneys failed after the sclerovasculitis. And I didn't realize that they also have me on dialysis. I didn't realize that you could have a seizure as an effect, as a, I guess, like an outcome of these different things that were going on. So I had a seizure, which I've never had in my life, and I didn't know that this was a possibility because of all the other things that I was, doing medically. So ask people, like, what are the possible outcomes? What are the possible side effects of all these things that are going on? Because that way you're prepared. You can let people know, like, this might happen. You can know that it might happen. So when it does happen, it's not such a traumatizing experience and you've been mentally prepared. But also so you can say, what's a different medication I can take? Because you don't have to accept what they say. They might call you, which I've been called, non-complacent, the N-word, my mom and I joke and call it. But you know what? Let them call you that N-word, but at least you'll be able to save yourself some trauma, pain, fear, anxiety, and who knows what else, complications. For example, when I was in the hospital, I was on life support this last time, and I would not take the insulin because I know that insulin has risks associated with it, and I don't have diabetes. I've never had a problem with my sugar and insulin levels. So when they kept offering it to me over and over and over again, I had to make sure to let them know that I was never going to take it and that I would be able to regulate my sugar levels, and that was something that I chose to do. But another person would have just taken that insulin because the doctors are telling them that they should take it, and they're being offered that. So what I'm saying is no side effects, know your options, research the side effects, and make sure you're aware of what you're being offered and what you're taking. And you can also do this for your family members because you can help them avoid having issues as well. Because as I said, we're in this together. So if your family member's taking a medication, you look up that medication with them because a lot of us will never do that. So take the time to help someone else do it too. So let's talk about, how medications can affect our diet. A lot of these medications actually cause you to crave different things. For example, prednisone causes you to crave carbs and sugar. And a lot of people who are on prednisone gain a lot of weight. I gained a lot of weight. And even right now, my face is swollen because it makes you swell. But what I'm saying is, know these things. Ask them, will this make me crave something? Should I avoid certain foods when I'm on this? For example, when you're dealing with kidney failure, you need to avoid sodium. You will swell up like a little grape, like really. And you need to avoid it. You need to avoid phosphorus. You need to avoid potassium. Potassium is found in things like cheese, so it's like you need to know what foods you should be avoiding and also what foods you should maybe be having more of. People with kidney failure should have almost as much as twice the normal amount of protein in their diets. So knowing that, I know that I need to eat more protein than I've probably ever eaten. And it's funny because even when it comes to diet, they may tell you you need to eat more meat, right? That's what they're telling you, but truly, what you need is more protein. So that doesn't mean you need to eat more meat. It means that you need to eat more protein. There are natural sources of protein that you can find, and not just soy, because I don't do the soy for different reasons that I'll get into in another webinar, but you could do vegan sources of protein. So explore your options. You know, the nutritionist will come and talk to you, but we have to remember that a nutritionist is trained by the same medical system that is treating you medically. So they're not aware of holistic options oftentimes because they're not trained in therapeutic and natural ways for you to heal your body, such as, alkalinity, things that make your body more alkaline. They might not know these different options. So it's up to you to look these things up. Or of course, we could schedule a time to talk to me or, someone who focuses on that, like natural options that heal. But know your options. Don't just take things at face value, and look and see what your body might be craving or might be in need of or might be lacking because of the medication. Because your medication might be robbing your bones of calcium. Know this. Become aware of it. Ask these questions. What might the medication leach from my body? What might I need more? What vitamins and minerals might I be losing? Should I drink more water? Should I drink less water? Ask these questions. When you go to your doctor, ask them to refer you to a nutritionist because you can oftentimes get that under your health insurance and use what they give you, but then go deeper, like I said, work with a holistic health coach like myself, and find out what other options there are for you. So now, inflammation. When we talk chronic illness, we cannot have that conversation without talking inflammation. Inflammation is like the silent killer that sneaks up on you when you're eating your favorite cheeseburger or cookies. So let me tell you about inflammation. So this is literally your body's, and inflammation is actually something good in moderation and when it's short term. When you cut yourself, when you bruise yourself, inflammation is great because that's how you heal. It helps in the healing process. But when you have long-term, and that's what we talked about, chronic illness, right? Long-term, consistent inflammation, it means that the body is now starting to damage the blood vessels and the organs because it's trying to protect itself, but instead now it's literally destroying itself because it's in this constant state of disrepair. So the question is, what can you do to lower your inflammation? So there are different things that lower inflammation, but diet is one of the leading factors in inflammation reduction. So you see the pictures on the screen. Now, processed meats, and I used to love turkey kielbasa. I would say I still love it. I'm just scared of it because I know what's in it. Nitrates, fillers, preservatives, ridiculously high levels of sodium. They all promote inflammation in the body. Processed meats have actually been linked to cancer. They're actually recognized in Europe as a carcinogen, which is like a cigarette. Like some of the ingredients in cigarettes are carcinogens. The processed meats are actually known as carcinogens in European studies. So when you recognize this, understand what they're saying is that they know that eating larger amounts of this can lead to cancer. Red meat, eating it in moderation may be okay, but when you eat large amounts of red meat, which many people do, these 12-ounce steaks, 14-ounce steaks, every day I see people posting their pictures on Instagram, and I'm just like, oh, look, it's like cancer. Like, a lot of people are overweight, but it's interesting because you see a lot of people overweight. Well, a lot of people who are overweight may even outlive these people who are doing these things that promote inflammation because your body is literally struggling to survive. And then when we consider inflammation, and if we're eating foods that promote inflammation, what are we eating that helps to reduce it? Because there always has to be a balance. So if you're doing things that promote inflammation, You also have to do things that reduce inflammation. So let's talk about like grains. If you're eating a lot of white grains, white sugars, refined carbs, then you have to balance this off because you're doing damage. So you balance this with foods that reduce inflammation. So that would be fruits, vegetables. Those are the main things. Herbs, of course. But fruits and vegetables are your two biggest helpers. Greens, dark leafy greens, your tomatoes, if you're allowed to do potassium, oranges, citrus, kiwis, which are very high in potassium, celery, natural diuretic. You have these really great options available to you. So if you're going to eat a bunch of junk, make sure you balance and you do things to, first of all, let's look at the things on this picture. All these alkaline foods are full of fiber. Fiber helps to clean the colon. So you want to make sure you're constantly getting food, like moving through your system. You don't want food to sit inside of you rotting because, first of all, you'll feel horrible. You'll feel weighted down. You'll feel sluggish. But also, it's not healthy for your body. It's like you're walking around with trash inside of you. Like, literally, you have to see it that way. And you don't want to walk around with trash just sitting inside of your body, especially not if you have a chronic illness, because an unhealthy colon is the perfect helper to a flare or to promoting you to have an immune system that is weakened because your body is not, it's not in a state of health. You're not in a state where you can thrive. So think about what you're putting in and also what's coming out. And also think about your bowel movements. Like, we're going to have a whole conversation about that. Because if they're, I know people who only go to the bathroom once a day to do number two. I know people who go less than once a day. You're supposed to go to the bathroom almost like a rabbit. You know, like what comes in should come out. It should flow right through you. If it's not, then what you're putting in is either not the right stuff, it is not full of fiber, it's refined, it's meat, and you're not doing things that help move through your body, or there's another problem going on. So we'll definitely have discussions about that in our upcoming talks, which I hope you'll join us with. Let's talk about activity. So physical activity is great, not only because it helps to lower blood pressure, reduce stress levels, and just make you look good, but it also helps with inflammation. When you get that blood flowing, your blood vessels love you, and inflammation thrives in a sedentary body. Being overweight, and yes, I'm overweight right now, and I'm definitely working on getting myself into a better state of health because I know that fat holds inflammation. It loves your fat cells. It sits in them, it lingers around, and it just sits in there like it's in a luxury hotel. So healthy weight. And a lot of people say like, oh, you're sick because you're overweight. I've lost a lot of weight and I've been really sick. So it's not only about weight. Of course, you know, we said lifestyle factors like stress and other things are a major part of this. But when you're moving and you're active, your inflammation levels, you know, when you're sweating, you're getting that blood flowing, your inflammation levels are bound to go down. Your blood pressure is bound to be better regulated because your body is flowing that blood through that heart. You're getting that oxygenated blood, and that helps your organs. It helps your skin look great. It just helps your body as a whole. So when we think about anyone with a chronic illness, movement might be more restricted. When we think about people with arthritis, when we think about people with my condition, vasculitis, people who've had strokes, people with asthma, but there are things you can do. One thing that a lot of people forget about is breathing. You can breathe and get your heart rate up. Literally deep breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth, repeatedly, not until you pass out, can help with increasing your lung capacity, but also getting your heart rate up. But then things like swimming, if you're able to get into the water, you could literally get in a pool and wade in the water and burn calories. You might have to do this longer than 15 minutes, but these things all help your body get into a better state of health. taking a walk, walking around the mall. You know, like my mom walks around the mall with me, you know, just to get me moving because, you know, it's like I have to take it easy because of creatinine, but, you know, just literally walking, stretching, yoga, exploring options like this can help you in the long and short run. And stretching is good, period, because as we age, our bodies become tight and our bones become brittle, and hip replacements and breaking your hip are one of the leading, like, that's like the sliding, that's like the slide to like death. Like people die a lot of times, like within a few years after breaking a hip. And that's usually related to brittle bones and not being flexible. So literally, like, you can save your life in the future by becoming flexible now, having a better fat to muscle ratio, which is helpful, period. And you'll just feel better. You'll have more energy. So we'll definitely talk about that. I hope that we can even do that together and make a plan, because I think that would be amazing, because doing these things in a group is very helpful. And I do have group sessions, so I hope that you join us for those group sessions, because this is the way to do it. In a team where there's accountability, there is healing. Okay, so again, we talked about that blood pressure. You know, we forget about blood pressure a lot of times because a lot of us don't think we have high blood pressure. But high blood pressure is like another little secret hidden killer that a lot of us are not aware of. Most people are consuming way more salt than we're supposed to. And we're literally only supposed to have about a teaspoon of salt a day. So when you think about what you eat throughout the day, I want you to think about how much salt you're eating. If you were to really put it on a spoon, that's about 2,300 milligrams. So now look at the back of your packages, read those labels, and we'll have a whole conversation around that in the future, because that's probably, I think that's talk number 4. But you have to really look at these labels and understand what they're putting in your food, because what you don't know can and may possibly kill you. And heart disease, like you said, heart disease and cancer are 2 of the leading causes of death, which means that heart disease that's like a restriction of your blood vessels, but it's also related to your blood pressure. So understanding how these things affect your body in the long run and the short run can save you. Okay. So now let's talk about life with chronic illness, because a lot of us are very isolated. No one can understand this, in my opinion, unless they have experienced it. Having your body working against you is a very different experience. And until you've gone through it, it can be very hard to identify with. So some of the things that people with chronic illnesses do experience are depression, hopelessness. You can actually become very complacent at times because you feel that there's no point. And just dealing with even addiction sometimes, the pain meds, sleeping pills, a lot of times are given when you're dealing with anxiety and your sleeplessness. So let's talk about limiting thoughts. For one, the question is, regardless of what the doctors tell you or the surgeons tell you, what do you think is possible? And now let's say that you do think that what they say is true. Why are you accepting this as a fact? No one can tell the future. No one knows what you're capable of. No one can determine whether you're going to live or die in the future unless they are working to create that outcome. And in the healthcare system, when they give you these diagnoses or they tell you that you have a year to live, or these different types of very declarative statements. For example, I had someone come in and tell me that I was going to be on hemodialysis when I was in the hospital, and we called him Dr. Doom. And then at the end of his statement, he said that he wasn't actually able to really tell me anything because he wasn't even a kidney specialist. So what I'm saying is that no one knows your body's ability for healing. No one knows what you're capable of. And honestly, a lot of times you don't even know. So Addressing limiting beliefs and thoughts will help you with healing no matter what. If you have 5 months to live, then make those the best 5 months. But why think of it as you have 5 months to live? Think of it as, what can I do with my life, period. Period. What can you do with your life, period? Because no one knows how much time we have. Address those limiting beliefs. What are you limiting yourself in overall? Because when we are sick, these things, or when we are dealing with illness, chronic illness, we're oftentimes also dealing with unhealthy relationships, unhappiness in our employment, unhappiness with childhood experiences, unhappiness with friendships. You know, address these different areas of your life. Cleansing is essential when you are dealing with a chronic illness. You have to cleanse your life, your mental space, and you have to create space for health, healthy thoughts, and also space for people who will support your healing. Because you're going to find that a lot of people are going to bring their fear to you because they're going to project onto you thinking about themselves. And your goal when you're dealing with this should be healing, period. And that physical healing will not come unless you start to heal the things that are affecting you mentally. And regardless of what your religion is, I would say spiritually, energetically, psychologically, you have to address these self-limiting thoughts and beliefs. What you believe you can have is what you will most likely have. And if you believe you can heal, you have a much better chance of healing than someone who thinks that they have no opportunity for healing. So keep this in mind, regardless of what any doctor says to you or what anyone tells you when you're going through this experience. So let's talk about self-care, because a lot of times when you're dealing with this, there's a lot of stress that causes you to lose sleep. Anxiety is a major issue, and sleep is when your body heals. I worked at a sleep study lab, and I learned there about REM sleep. REM sleep happens around 6 hours of rest. If you are not sleeping through the night, especially when it's dark outside, because that is when our bodies are trained to sleep, through evolution, we're trained to sleep at night. If you're not getting to that state of REM sleep, your body is not getting to the point where your cells actually start to regenerate. If your cells are not regenerating, you're aging faster. When I say aging faster, I don't only mean that you're like speeding up time. Your skin is gonna look aged, because you will. Your skin, like if you look at a lot of young people, like I'm thankful it didn't happen to me because I used to like to party. A lot of young people who party a lot, drink a lot of people who do drugs, they look very old, very haggard, and you're literally aging yourself faster by not getting to sleep. But what you don't see is on the inside, your organs are aging faster. So we have a lot of people who are walking around on the outside, you might be 32, but on the inside you're 44 because you're not getting enough sleep. You're literally stealing time from yourself. So take some time to find ways that you can get more hours of sleep at night. Find ways that you can relax before you go to bed. I have to do this myself and get better with it. It's like taking time to just turn everything off. Like my mom talks to me about this. You have to turn everything off, but I get my sleep. So I'm like, leave me alone. But you need to, I do get my 6 hours. I was almost nights. But you have to make sure you get to that REM sleep. And we're going to have a whole discussion about sleep, because dreams are also very important in life, and we're going to talk about those one day. So I hope you join us for that session. But that is essential. Like if you forget anything else I said, sleep and eating those foods that promote healing are two of the best things that you can do for your health, period. And getting those toxic people out, those toxic people and toxic thoughts. because that will make such a difference in your life no matter what happens. And then again, stressors. Work-life balance is so essential. So I don't know what you do for a living, but if you're not happy at work, your whole life is going to be out of whack. Now, when I say work, I don't just mean a job. I mean in whatever you do most of the day, whatever you do to pay your bills. If you are not satisfied and happy with this, you have to find ways to change this. This is especially true for people living with chronic illness. I know a lot of people are on disability, but a lot of people are still working and going to work every day in pain. And even that is something that you really have to address and talk to someone about, because being in constant pain and working is very difficult. But being in constant pain and working at a job that you hate is even worse. And it's bad for your health. Stress kills and promotes inflammation. Stress can lead to heart attack. Stress can lead to stroke. Stress can lead to depression. Stress is one of the killers that we need to talk about more, because we're taught to just deal with it and we're taught that it's normal. But stress is literally felt in your body. It affects the way you eat. It affects the way you sleep. It affects your dreams. And it affects every area of your life. And it literally steals time from you. So if you are unhappy in your work, you have to explore options. And this is especially true for anyone with a chronic illness. Look for ways that you can replace that income, increase your income, create income that is satisfying to you. Find ways to take those interests you have, think about those things that you love doing, think about what you can offer, and find ways to start bringing that to the public, because you're literally working against yourself every single day if you're going to a job that makes you unhappy, if you're dealing with a work-life balance that's out of whack. And if your job is causing you to not get enough sleep, then again, you're just adding on to the inflammation that you're already getting from the stress, because now you're not getting enough sleep. And if you're drinking coffee and eating bagels and brownies, not brownies, I would eat brownies for breakfast, but I know most people wouldn't, but I have brownies that you'll see in the future. But if you're eating bagels and donuts and coffee for breakfast, or scrambled eggs, bacon, and cheese for breakfast, so you're just like piling these things up on top of each other. And no one says this and breaks it down for us, but it's like an inflammation little tower. And when it all comes crumbling down, there we see asthma flares and cancer and all these things, but these are all the things that you are basically working towards anyway. So it's like you plan for something, you're going to get what you plan for, right? All right. So we're going to talk about creating desirable outcomes, because at the end of the day, that's all that matters, is those desirable outcomes. So for our next conversation, I want you to think about 4 different things that you would like to achieve, and I want you to set a time frame. And these don't have to be big things, because we think of them as these huge things. I have to lose 80 pounds in 2 months, and I want to move across the country, and I want to be married by this date. No, this could literally be, I'm going to take a 10-minute walk 2 days a week, and you just do that. I'm going to call my grandma more, because that relieves stress. Talk to your grandma. I'm going to start my day by drinking a glass of water. Some people don't drink water at all. I'm going to write in my journal for 5 minutes. These can be small goals, but the point of this is to create healthy habits and to start to create desirable incomes. Incomes, but outcomes as well. So the goal is to create patterns, rituals, and what we will do is start building on them, start building on top of these. because once you've committed to the ritual, then we can add more rituals. And this is how we create true change. And I work with clients, and I have seen some amazing things happen in their lives through creating rituals. And of course, just having support and someone who is reinforcing these things and a safe environment. All these things hand in hand can create major desirable outcomes in a person's life. I've seen it in my own life because I worked with a coach when I was in the actual program. And it's amazing how just starting small and building on top of this and being held accountable can lead to great changes. So what I'm saying to you is take a pen, a piece of paper, and think about it tonight. What are 4 things I can do to create change in my life? What are 4 lifestyle changes I can make? Because what we said was that lifestyle choices are what lead to a lot of those issues in our health and our chronic illness. So how can I become more active? How can I relieve stress? Like, think about it in terms of questions. How can I eat more foods that reduce inflammation? How can I cut out foods that promote inflammation? Even if you just thought about those questions and came up with 4 small things you could do, you would start to see some really great changes in how you feel and how you approach things. You'd be more aware of yourself and your actions and your thoughts. Even if you said, how can I be more aware of my thoughts, my limiting beliefs? How am I limiting myself in this situation? And that could apply to relationships, work, employment. I've had a lot of jobs. A lot of us stay in jobs because we're afraid to apply to new jobs. Or we're like, I've invested so much time here. How, like, if I go to this new place, I'll be new. And, I don't know if I can do that. Like, what's the worst that can happen at the end of the day? So think about it in terms of those questions. Instead of like what I can't do, how can I? What can I? When can I? Not if, but when. Because we have to get out of that if, not if I can heal, not if I can reverse this, because we don't know what's going to happen. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But we have to think in terms of when I heal, when I feel better, when this changes, when I get off my meds, when the pain is gone. What will that feel like? I want you to really sit and just think about that feeling. I get excited about it. I get excited about peeing because a lot of people who are experiencing kidney failure don't pee. I get excited about these little things because these little things are the things that become big things. So we always want that big bang, but what about those little sparks? All right? Don't overlook those little sparks because they're there for a reason and we need to pay attention to them. And like I said, feel it in your body. Really imagine what you would feel like without that chronic illness, without having to go to those doctor's appointments, and realize that making these changes can lead to that. It may not happen in a week, it may not happen in a month, it may not happen in a year, but recognize that it can happen, and that by you doing the things you have to do, by making changes, you're giving yourself options. So instead of being in a place where things are just being done to you, you're now taking on an active role where you're participating in the healing process. And that in itself is taking you from a state of weakness to a state of strength. And one of the most horrible feelings I've ever experienced is being weak and not being able to be a part of my own healing process. You have to be an active agent in the process because it's you. And as we said before, no one knows you better than you. No one knows what feeling healed will feel like better than you. And no one's going to understand the changes in your body better than you. So I want you to take these small goals that we talked about, those 4 small lifestyle changes. And like I said, we're going to write down a list of 4 small goals because we're going to start small, but we're going to do them as rituals every day. And once you start to see the changes, write them down. If you were experiencing a lot of pain in your knees and swelling, maybe you want to reduce your dairy intake and see how that affects your inflammation. Maybe you want to drink more water and see how that affects something. And you write down those changes, because once you start to see the changes, it's almost like people were like, oh, working out becomes like an addiction. Healing becomes an addiction. For example, I had collapsed lungs at one point, and I didn't know what was going to happen with my lungs. But when I was able to take deep breaths, I became annoying about it. Like, I became a breathing advocate. I would tell people about deep breathing and expanding in the lungs, because we forget how simple these things are, but how meaningful they are and how amazing they feel. And once it's taken away, it's like you don't realize how much it means to have it until it's taken away. So remember how you felt when you felt good. And if you can't remember how you felt when you felt good, I want you to imagine feeling amazing. And I want you to write down what feeling amazing would mean to you. How would you get up in the morning? How would you walk around during the day? What would you say to people? Imagine it. Feel it in your body. Do it when you're by yourself and get emotional about it, because that is where we're headed. Don't focus on where we are. Acknowledge where you are, but focus on where you're heading, because that's all that matters. Because we can't go back to where we were, but we can create a better outcome. We can create a better future for ourselves. We can heal. And even if we can't reverse our condition fully, we can get ourselves into the best possible state of health for us. And we can share that and live that. And that is priceless. So the next steps would be, what I'm going to do is send you an evaluation. And I really want to thank you all who were able to stay on for the whole webinar, because, you know, an hour to some people is a very long time, but I thought that an hour was enough time for us to share some really good information. And I didn't want to rush through these topics, but I did want to touch on a lot of different things because I think they're all important. And again, this is holistic healing. And I don't just want to talk to you about your food, because I know that you can eat the best diet in the world, but if you go home and you're being abused by your family or by your children, or if you're miserable, you're still going to be sick. So we had to touch on these different topics. So you're going to get an evaluation email, and when you get that evaluation, please fill it out. You're going to get your gifts from there. I'm really excited about the gifts because I worked hard on them, and I think you'll really enjoy them. And again, I do work with clients. I have a really great program that will be available to you for the next 72 hours. So you'll also get that in your email. And I look forward to speaking with you again. And I look forward to our next webinar. So please check in for part 2. We're going to keep this going. We're going to focus on healing. And we are going to grow together. Make sure you visit me at frommothersgarden.com. And you can also check out our YouTube page, because we're definitely going to be doing more YouTube videos. And I will see you soon. Have a nice night. And actually, I'll go on camera again before we end it. Okay. So I want to again just say thank you all for staying through. And I'm looking forward to seeing what your goals are. Check in and let me know. Send me an email. I would love to hold you accountable to them, because I like to do that anyway. So let me know what goals you set. We'll have a conversation around those. And, you know, I would love to speak with everyone who's on the webinar tonight about those goals you set, because regardless of what you do, if we work together or not, those could definitely be a stepping stone to greater things. So keep me tuned in, keep yourself tuned in, and keep going from here, because this is just the beginning. Okay? Have a nice night. Bye.